Hey, everybody. So, if you've ever had that shoot where your ego took over your common sense, this would be one. My ego was I wanted to be part of this. I mean, supremely part of it. As you know, this is Bill Black business, and I'm telling you, great program. Absolutely loved it. It was great shoot, everything else. I probably would have done 10 times better on the photo shoot side of it, but I was sick as a dog. Preface of it is, I had a cyst. It was really infected. Less than 2 weeks later, or less than a week later, I'm sitting in the hospital being told I'm either going to the ICU or they're going to get this taken care of. Yeah, talk about just messed up situation here. And I was already like running a fever, COVID tested, so I knew I was safe. It was just not feeling the greatest. There was no, like, they found no, like, cold symptoms or anything. They just said I probably had, like, a stomach infection or something like that. I was fine. But non-communicable. It was just something that was wrong. They couldn't figure it out. Turns out to be a cyst. And in doing so, I didn't do my best work. And sometimes you walk in there and you're doing some volunteer work, the ego gets in your way. So I got some good photos here. For example, this is G. Scott. Really great speaker there. He was a great MC for the whole entire event. And essentially what I wanted to do was get a good look of who he is, actually be able to see who he is there. As you can see, that photo looks completely different. Looks kind of dull there. Now we start getting that vibrancy from G. Scott. And he is just a great guy. And, let me get rid of some of those wrinkles there. And then, now we make him look like a superstar like he always is. Long story short, I'm going to do some editing. I'd like to chat about it. I gotta tell you, this was a great program. This is what you call Bill Black business. And they had a whole bunch of black businesses there. They were doing great. These young men are college bound right now. Just doing great. Just thought I'd share as I'm going through the edit right now. Enjoy some good music, and I'm going to get to work, see what I can do to make these look a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more exciting as I go to post these here later tonight. But this was a little bit older session. I just wanted to get some work done on it. Finally feeling good enough to tackle this one here. After all my other pay gigs, I still got to do some of these here and there just for good times and fun. And I actually know the guy who makes these particular bracelets. A buddy of mine makes them. Yeah, it's pretty nice. That being said, I'm gonna turn off the mic and you enjoy the music, and I'm gonna do some editing or coloring, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm not going into Photoshop tonight. I'm just going to stick in Capture One. If you've never used Capture One, it's probably the best software to quickly edit photos, make adjustments, and most of the work you're going to do in this business. All right, enjoy. Here it is. One quick thing. Over the years, I've done a lot of editing, so you'll see me typing in some numbers here or moving sliders pretty quick. It's just because I've done it a lot of times. It's pretty easy to do if you've practiced at it a little bit. Kind of know what you're trying to do with each image. This will be changed up just a hair, not a huge amount. I'll change up a little bit here and there. Add a little bit of work. Just not a huge amount. Want to make it look good. We want to make sure these young gentlemen look great. this is actually a technique I like to use a lot. What I just did there was put a layer on, and let me show you this real quick. So here's the before where we started with. Here's the after. Now you'll see there's a little bit of blemishes here. So one of the things I like to do is, I don't want to hide everything. What I want to do is de-emphasize. So what I'll do is, as you can see, it's still there, but as you look at the structure on his face, there's less of it to be seen in that one area where it was prominent. The rest of his face is fantastic, so it's just easier to go that route there. Keep the skin tones looking really good. So you start off here and it's kind of like dull, not really, something that pops out. It helps to start with a good photo like this because it's kind of like working with a raw in video where you start off really good and then just adjusting small things in the color just becomes easier. And then all of a sudden you've got great skin tone, you've got a good workaround, and there you go. So yeah, let's continue on here. There will be a few editors who watch this and wondering why I didn't go over to this icon, which is your local adjustment page. If you're a Lightroom user, you have to go to that. On Capture One, you may add in whatever tools you need to whatever page you want, which is extremely nice. So when you're just going to do a little bit of layer work and color adjustment, it's extremely nice to be able to just stay in one location versus having to change locations all the time. That does make a difference. Overall, I would say this is a good, nice shot that has very, very good color tone to it. Nice de-emphasization of any blemishes without removing them, because you don't want to make it to where it's fake, because people know who they are, so they know who they're looking at, but at the same time they're like, wait, what is so different about this photo that, I know he looks better or she looks better than they normally do, or there's something different, and that's where de-emphasization comes in. So if you're gonna let's look at like skin tones here, blah at best, but now that you bring a little vibrance to it, there you go. It just simplifies and makes it look good. I'm gonna continue on. I got more to do here, so just give me a moment. I won't be taking too much of your time. See, I like this young man. He was getting his hustle on that day. I mean, really, really getting his hustle on. He's been working extremely hard with this product line, And I believe he sent some stuff to Jenny Durkin's office later on, which is good. He needed to. His product is extremely good. So. So this gentleman here, if you ever get an opportunity to listen to the man speak, he is very reserved. He was amazing when he was playing for the Seahawks. His mind on business is spectacular. When I say spectacular, I mean next level, crazy spectacular. I may have been half out of it, but I can tell you right now, I knew what he was talking about. And he was talking about black excellence and black business development. So I think it was phenomenal. Doug Baldwin's an incredible man. All right, I'm going to get back to editing. Not a very illustrious subject, but teeth. Doug, don't kill me on this one, man. I don't want to end up dead over this posting, but I got to get this done. This is natural for anybody here in the Northwest. We all drink way too much coffee. So what I'm going to do here is just take care of the teeth real quick, and I got to make sure Doug looks great. You know, I want him to look phenomenal. So we're going to basically just got to grab the teeth. You don't have to grab everything else, and then kind of walk your way through it. Make sure you grab them good, and then that's your layer. Now normally people are going to work off of this layer here, so if you're in Lightroom you would be here, and then you would click this to make your adjustments. This is all your different types: magic brush, clonings, eraser, all of it's here. Because all I'm really doing is just a small adjustment in the layer, I don't have to worry about that. And then normally you would have to come over to color if you're in Lightroom, and this is where you would make your adjustments. Where is that correct one? Because I think I just took it completely out of here. Is advanced color. What is it? Color editor. Would normally be in there too. I just took it out. No, it's down here at the bottom. My bad. I still had it here. You normally go to advanced, but I'm going to stick in the area where it's just easy for me to work from. So anyone who has Lightroom, things like that, the reason why it looks confusing and I'm able to just jump wherever I want to is I added the tools in that I wanted in my, what do they call this tab now? I keep changing the name of it. Exposure tab. Essentially, this just allows me to do multiple things in one tab area. I'm going to pick an area that's not the cleanest of his teeth, but right in the middle, so right there. And then we're going to spread out here. We're going to try to localize it. This basically, smoothness allows it to go out further from the color that you chose. If you down to 1 means it's just locked into the area you've chosen in the spectrum, and you can expand it or not. Down here is what you started with on the left, and then on the right is where you're going to end up at. It's fairly simple. You can invert it too, so it's really up to you. So you can invert the colors to protect, or have the colors that you want to adjust. It's really simple. This is based on each layer, so it doesn't matter how many layers you put on there. In this case here, I'll mess with the hue, and what I'm looking at is the numbers here. I want to start seeing if this is going to escalate the numbers, which it's really not. So then it comes down to saturation. And I am starting to see what I'm looking for color-wise. And now Doug Baldwin's teeth look fucking fabulous. Excuse my language. They look incredible. Spectacular. This is Doug Baldwin with his teeth looking great. So this is what you do. I mean, sometimes you got to make adjustments to ensure that everything is right. And then all of a sudden, you know, he goes from, you know, where he was at teeth-wise to where he is now. And I like it, you know. It looks really good and makes for great looking teeth. And then comes a little bit of the coloring. So he's got some shadows here that I don't like from the way this was set up. Unfortunately, like I said, I was sick, so I set this up all wrong. And surprisingly got halfway decent results, so I'll take the positives where I can get them. In general, on a face like this, I would probably do one more layer. So I'll add another layer here. And I'm just adjusting brush size. Because, I mean, he's a great looking guy. We just have to make sure that we keep the blemishes natural from all of us. I mean, if you saw my face in a close-up with a high-res camera with one of the sharpest 50 millimeter lenses that's ever been produced, this is a Zeiss lens I shot with. Yeah, everything about my face would show. So now that we got that done, it comes down to the simple, easy trick, which is basically a natural progression on the clarity. I don't want the wrinkles to disappear. I just want them to be de-emphasized. So you can see that's all messed up there. Clarity down, then mess with the structure a little bit. And this one's right there. So I still want the good look. Just don't want it to emphasize as much. There you go. Then it comes down to characteristics of color. Now the number I'm typing in here is just Kelvin. And I like 5600 Kelvin after the shot. You can do whatever you want to do. It's all about what you enjoy. Some people like to add a little more saturation into the shot to give that type of a skin pop. And I do that after I get rid of a few things here. Oh yeah. Sorry. It's one of those mistakes. I'm sitting here doing a video. I'm up here like, Remember, the disadvantage of doing it this way is you always got to get into your backgrounds. So you want to mess with the saturations, you can do that here. This is how you just oversaturate, undersaturate. I usually use that tab last. And no, I'm not going to go into all the extremes of the editing. These are just quick, fun ones to do online. So, as I said, I like 5600 Kelvin. It's just me personally. When you're shooting in RAW, you can make these adjustments. It's really easy. As you can see, I'm in RAW right now. And I'll pull some of that color up. Put some of the highlights out. This tool is really nice here, so you can see if there's any highlights left. If nothing lights up red, there's no extra highlights. You can play with the shadows just a hair. And I like to bring the shadows up a little bit because it brings the natural color in. And there you go there. And then do I want to add a little saturation? If I had to guess, I'd put in 5. 58, 5. Just a little bit of tone adjustment. And there you go. That's Doug Baldwin looking beautiful. It's looking great. This is the man I know and the one I've looked up to and seen for a long time. Now, the one thing I probably would do emphasize some of that. There we go. Well, there you go. There's your focus mask. You can just check and see what's in focus and what's not. And there you go. Simple, easy to work. I've been yakking too much. Enjoy the music. One quick update on this. I did not have my flashes set up around the whole event. I only have one area where I have flashes up. I normally run Godox systems with the 8200s, and those would be placed strategically so that I would always have a flash. In this particular area, I did not, and I pushed it as far as I could ISO wise to be safe, using 85mm and the regular lighting that was there. This is going to take a little work to get it where I want it. But I think overall it's a good picture of those two together, and we're going to have to figure out how to make it work. All right, you can watch and see how I do it. When it comes to Kelvin for me, I do not use the it's tungsten, it's this lighting type thing. I've always thought that when you're doing this, you need to do it from the heart. You need to be able to see what you're shooting and find a way to make the light work the way you want your eyes to see it. It's a little different way of doing it, but it's always worked out really good and has allowed me to have some extremely great photos due to the fact that I kind of just went with what looked good to my eyes. And we appreciate that Jenny Durkins and the rest of them came down to help. G. Scott was out there to do the announcements, and with that, I want them to feel real good. Now I'm going to take my bald head off here so you can see the whole thing as I'm working, and then we'll kind of go from there. As you can see, I'm just taking the edge off the lines. I don't want to lose the characteristics of Jenny Durkin. I just want to make sure that we're not overemphasizing the parts that aren't the most flattering. G. Scott, as usual, looks really good in this photo. I think there's only a couple things I really want to do on this one for him. I'll do it for her too. That is always, if you want to have clients happy with you, or you want to have potential clients happy with you, learn how to do teeth. Nothing makes a person feel better than when they leave the dentist and their teeth look beautiful. I mean, when their teeth are like shining. And then when they go into a photo, they want the same thing. A lot of people will take their best and they'll portraits and everything after they've done facials, this, that, and they've seen their dentist. And so the idea is you get to be their dentist for the day and help them, especially in the Northwest, us coffee drinkers. And we do all drink a lot of coffee. You know, keep that same beautiful looking smile that we got the day we came out of the dentist. We did, you know, we put the money in to get them shined up because, you know, we have a habit of coffee, and, you know, I don't blame you. I live off that stuff. I like my coffee just as much as everybody else. So, oh yeah, let me erase that real quick. Add in a new layer. This layer, erase. I don't want the declarity stuff put in there. Okay. Now, there is one disadvantage, and because I'm recording a video, I'm not really paying attention to it as much as I normally would. When you're in Capture One, because you can add in multiple tools to the same page you're working on, or tab, remembering to have the extra layers and the differentiating between the layers is sometimes an issue, just because you forget. It's not that it's hard to do or anything, it's just you forget. Once again, whenever I do teeth, I always try to find by just look. Now there's numbers up at the top, there's numbers here that you see that are right above this that'll tell you basically how the color is made. And I try to eyeball it. I mean, this is going to be the lowest number is 89, lowest number is 43. I don't want to start there. I really want to start in the area that's right around 200 all the way across the board, because it's a little more realistic. And yes, I do pull the color up all the way. The smoothness is basically to keep in this spectrum of color. Hue is just to kind of keep everything kind of, I always negative the hue. It just has worked out better for me. You can try whatever works best for you. And I'm really just eyeballing it at this point. Because, I mean, you can bring the teeth down like this, or you can, like, over brighten them. And, you know, in this case here, that actually doesn't look bad. I would put it right about this number right here, which is the color you're getting, is in the 200s across the board, but it's going to be like 215, 225. And that gives them a beautiful looking smile. Now, the question comes down to, do you have to do a new one, a new layer for her or the next person? If their teeth are close to the same color, which I think they start all about the same, you'll love this technique. And it's just basically pull your brush out, brush on, and let's just see if we get lucky here and they're within the same realm. If they are, I know we're not going to be getting lucky. I know that they are within the same range color, so they're taking really good care of their teeth for color wise, so it makes it a lot easier for me to come through and just bam, boom, done. 30 seconds later, you got a beautiful smile, and Jenny Durkin looks great. I'll post these online here later tonight. You know, you're looking great right here. Now, what would I do? Temperature and light and everything here, I might make some adjustments. I haven't even played with the sliders yet. Now, some people will say you're not a professional because you're not playing with the curves. If I wanted to play with the curves, I could. So I could lock in a few points, and this is something I've always done with curves. I've always locked in my points and then moved them up. So you can select your curves multiple ways. I'll just select a curve on here and I will play with it up or down using my 10 key, and it's, makes for very easy. And the reason why I lock the curves the way I do is I don't want all the rest of the luminance to get messed with, or the RGB, so it's easier for me to lock it into place and play with it. And as you can see, it's coming out pretty good. And if we look at this before and after, I love this slider feature here. So here's your before, really tungsten light, just not as flattering. In a lot of ways, just really, great starting point, just not something you want to deliver to a client. And then when you bring in the right colors, vibrancy, that's better than not having it. Now, would I make some adjustments here? Probably. I would say maybe there's a little shine on his head. I don't know that I'd yank that out of there because it just takes away from the natural light that he's getting here. And that's mainly from the additional lights that are around the room. So, how are we looking here overall? Beautiful smile, beautiful teeth. All right, now let's play with some of the blacks. Oh yeah, wrong layer. Once again, I'm talking to you and I'm not paying attention to layers. So, this is where you go into the layer adjustments again. Normally, you'd be there, then to play with the layers. I'm used to doing everything in one area, so it makes it easy. So let's play with shadows. And why do I run the sliders across like this? I'll tell you why. No matter what you think, every photo is going to act different. Every last one of them. I've never seen one stay exactly the same. So, three. There we go. I'm going to call this one a good one. I actually have more I could do to it. I mean, I could even adjust some of the shadings. If you come down here to your levels, you can even make huge adjustments here that would adjust so much of this shot to change it around. But I'm not going to. I usually do with Sony's maybe some green adjustment, but I don't want to go into the pinks on this because I've done so many adjustments already. I didn't mess with the tints only because it wasn't necessary, and the reason why I didn't make any other big adjustments is because if you start off, like I've said multiple times to most of the people I teach that work in our team, is if you start with at least a good photo, you will be able to end with something great. But if you don't, you're kind of toast. And that's the problem. I mean, you got to put the time into it to make sure that you've got a good starting photo, because you don't want to be like this and go, I can't accomplish that. You have to understand the whole set of tools and what you're trying to do. In this case here, I just want to be able to put together a nice photo that would look good for anybody who got one. Like I said, it wasn't 100%, so some of my settings were just way off in the camera because as I switched rooms, I didn't set up extra flashes. I wasn't feeling good. It didn't go out all the way I wanted to. But it's a good start. Hope you've enjoyed the music. I got one more to do, and then I'm going to export them, put them up on LinkedIn, and I will put them up on my Facebook. And so far, it's been a fun night playing around and editing. So this is one I had started and had not finished yet. So I guess I can show you exactly what I planned on doing with this photo, because this will be the last one for the night. So first off, this is going to be a right exposure photo. So we're going to place him right here. We're going to give a little bit of the room, keep his shoulder in the shot, and there you're going to go. So that's our positioning. Now, as you can see, I had a whole photo to start with. Not always do I have time to zoom in, and not always do I have a zoom. And in my opinion, a zoom, sometimes you miss certain things that you can do in post-production later. There's people who do not like cropping it on photos, but then again, I go, how many people cropped it on photos in the past and they had the old school take a knife to the film and there's your new photo. So let's kind of get to work here and let's make G. Scott look fantastic. Rule of thumb. Let me turn my camera on so you can see my face real quick. I want to make sure I say this and people see my eyes. Rule of thumb. Even if only a few teeth are showing, these are portraits of people, make sure you adjust their teeth, because this is one of those areas where they want to look really good. I rarely mess with the eyes, so when you ask me if I'm going to mess with the eyes, no. But will I make the teeth look great? Absolutely. Because it's one of the two areas people always look at. They look at your eyes to see if there's a nice glow coming off of it. And the other area they look at is your teeth. And I have no clue why they do, but a lot of people look at the teeth and go, that's what sets them apart. So, face off, and it's time to get back to work. Yes. Oh yes. Sometimes you get these really tight spots, but that's the difference between those who, get paid a certain amount to do work and those who don't. I mean, you gotta be willing to look at the small spots and fix those too, because that's where you're gonna set yourself apart. And I want everyone to succeed. So if you come out in this business and you start killing it and you're getting a ton of photo shoots, I see that as a net positive for all of us, because people will see the importance of this over, say, an iPhone photo. And there's nothing wrong with iPhone photos, but in an iPhone photo you really can't do this and get that deep into it. Now they have their place and their purpose too. So if you're wondering what color it's going to be, you can always look right here to see what color you're getting. It's just, makes the adjustments really easy. Like I said, I eyeball a lot of it. That's just me. If you're one of those technical guys who likes to look at the numbers and see the numbers, you can. It's really up to you. Alright, let me change layers again. Now, one huge mistake a lot of people make, and I made this a lot with my initial career of photography. Let me hit this here. You'll see a lot of areas that are blown out, and they will come over to the curves and try to make so many adjustments in the curves. And I understand you're taught to do the curves and the levels. 9 times out of 10 you don't need to do that. 9 times out of 10 you can just come here, take a look at where the highlights are. These should be blown out. I mean, they're just a light, and they're white. They're going to get blown out. It gives an emphasis. But a shirt in this should never be blown out. I've seen it on wedding dresses. I've seen it on suits. These do have textures and lines to them, and it's good to keep those. They're important. It allows for, he chose that white because it had so many different offsets. And if it's just going to end up looking like this, if it's just going to look like a white blown out thing, you've taken away from the actual clothing that he picked. So it's important to make sure you think of that too. And overall, teeth look good. That looks good. His eyes are a little yellow, and if I wanted to, I could get into there, but part of that yellow actually comes from the tungsten light that's over here. There's 2 tungsten lights on them, and there's actually another one on the ground that's shooting up. We had issues, they did, with the backlighting, so it was one of those areas where they made a choice and they went with it, and it worked out pretty good. And then another one here. Brightness tends to adjust a lot of things for you. As you can see, there's that little bit of a tint on his face. That's actually from the main tungsten light. And I'm trying to be in the tungsten realm without getting too far into it, because I want it to look good. Now, I have seen editors lately throw a lot of saturation into photos. I personally am still, let's just give it a little bit of flair, not a whole lot. Just enough to emphasize and go for it. Now, as you can see, I'm far enough away that a lot of the structure is not an issue. When I say structure, I mean lines on the face and things like that. What you could do though, if you wanted to add a little additional flavor, is you could, especially with his face, being that it's really clean cut, really good looking, he takes good care of it, you could just do this last little bit. Okay, of course I overdid it. It takes 10 seconds. In this case, I don't mind emphasizing how his beard is, but I want it to be face. What I want emphasized is basically from here on down, not the top of his head. So I want people focused on the eyes, this area here, this area here. I don't want them focusing up here because I see they may or may not consider blemished area. So, and our eyes are naturally drawn to different areas, so I just find it good to limit that additional draw if it's not necessary. And no, I'm not going to take that off because it's nice to have a little bit of counter lights. Alright, so I'm going to bring down the clarity just a hair without making it look artificial. Some people will try to defocus it a lot, and I'm not for one to do that. I like to bring the clarity down a little bit, bring the structure down just a hair. Bam. Now, as you look at the photo, you're more drawn to the face, this area here. You're not really noticing this. And yes, there is a little bit of a light up here. I could essentially color in all this, do another layer like such. Now you may be wondering why I'm coloring all this. If I'm going to take out the highlights of that, I want to make sure that it's almost natural. And so I'm not getting rid of the highlighted spot. I'm just allowing it to kind of naturally flow the way it's going to flow. I'm going to bring the whites down just a hair. Generally, I'll just use these sliders because once you start adjusting too much of the brightness, there you go. But I don't really need that layer, so I'm going to get rid of it most likely. But I'm looking at it because it's sticking out like a sore thumb, but most people won't even notice it. They'll notice this part right here. Now, if you wanted to, and you were worried about these excess lights, which they work as a hair light, which is really nice, that's why I'm not adjusting them, you can de-emphasize those if you want, but I would not do that. Now, the last part I do on something like this is your background layer. Your 2500 ISO, which with the Sony doesn't make a difference. What I have found, if you want to, you can clean it up just a hair and give them just a beautiful look with less grain to it. And now with this set here, there's two things you can do with it too. You can keep it like it is, or if you've got some good built-in styles, which I have some nice ones. This is also a nice one to go into a Portrait 3, I think. Which one was a good one here? Yeah, Portrait 0. You could do that too. It's good to have the foundation done in color before you go into any effects. I mean, you could even do some fun creative ones too. Alright, that's a session. As you can see, photos do take a little time to edit. And this is without going into Photoshop. So if I wanted to go into Photoshop, then I could really contour these right here. And it's possible to do even through this program, but you could contour it and make it look as if he has absolutely smooth skin there. It's a possibility I can still do it tonight. But other than that, thanks everyone for watching. It's kind of cool to spend a little time with everybody while I'm editing photos, and y'all have a good night. I think this is the end of the stream. I'm gonna call it good. Bye.